You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Richard Knowles, financial consultant and wealth manager from Knowles & Associates in Vancouver. Welcome to the show, Richard.
Oh, thank you, Jim.
Today, well, first of all, a lot of experts are saying we're going to be facing a major correction in the U.S. stock markets in the new year. I think you agree with that. Well, what can a person do if you're heavily exposed to the U.S. markets?
Yeah, well, let's qualify the calls on the markets. There's been a number of people that are saying that the indicators are all there, and we're talking about statisticians, really research analysts that have been studying corrections and have been calling, actually, most importantly, some of these, particularly the ones that I follow, have been making successful calls on the stock market. In other words, they have, not in every cycle, of course, and not all the time, but what I mean is when certain indicators have shown them that there was going to be a major stock market correction, they have been on a regular basis, right back, in fact, in one case, they go back to 1929, that they have been successful in understanding that the indicators will call for a big market correction. To what degree will vary. They can't necessarily tell you exactly where it's going to drop, but that one is coming is based on statistical indicators that lead up to this. So it's basically a scientific approach that they've taken, and it's been extremely consistent, and in one case to 100% on all the major corrections only, the major corrections, not minor corrections throughout the year and such, but the major ones, 2008, the correction of 2000, the big tech bubble. We have the 1998 correction, the ruble collapsing and all that. We have the 1990s, early 1990s, when there was a massive recession, global recession, 93. We have, of course, the 2008 crash. All of these were called correctly, and the same indicators, by the way, occurred in each case, in these cases. And I won't get into the technical side, but what's most intriguing is that we have two things that seem to be happening. All of these indicators are happening all at once now. We have a geopolitical system in the world today with all of the warring and the issues in the Ukraine, and all the major powers have been making maneuvers to steal land, basically to take land back for whatever reason. There's warmongering. At the same time, we have a typical 6 to 7 year recessionary cycle also overlapping 2015. So for those that don't know, there's usually an average 6 to 7 year cycle for growth, and then we have a market correction, a pullback, an economic recession to some degree, some more deeper than others. This may not be as deep, it may be very deep, we don't know, but it'll happen sometime overlapping 2015 into 2016. So the reality is that when you have all of these indicators overlapping, this individual group came up with an interesting statistic. There's a 65% chance, I mean that's not a guarantee, but it's a 65% chance for a severe correction in the U.S. stock market. Now we all know the U.S. stock market is in the U.S., but it also affects Canada and the rest of the world in a major way, especially economically, as well as we're linked markets in many ways, in companies, etc. So we have to be extremely cognizant and aware of the risks that we have when we enter into the stock markets at these levels, being at the highest points that we've seen, probably, certainly in the U.S., ever. So this is a struggle that many people have. We always have this internal struggle, buy high and sell low, which is the exact opposite of what we should be doing. We should be selling high and buying low. So depending on what you own, it would be extremely wise to diversify at this point. If you've been holding 100%, in, for example, in stock equities, it's time to get out of those and move into more fixed income, high income, other things that will not be affected by the stock market correction, and maybe even positively affected by a drop in the stock markets. For example, bonds. Bonds will be a bastion of a harbor of money that will be flooding out of the stock markets on the way down, if it does happen. So this is one defensive strategy. So look for income producing, fixed income if possible, things like bonds, preferred shares, and other things which are not affected by the stock market. They're affected by interest rates. So with interest rates being at an all-time low, and if a recession happens, interest rates are not going to be going up very quickly. That's a good place to hold your money and a great defensive position to get out at these high points in the markets and start to shift more into fixed income over the next few months before this may occur. So we are looking at what timing in the new year. We don't know. It could be early in the spring. It could be later on in the fall. We don't know exactly when this could happen, but it is technical indicators show that there is a form of correction. If you want to keep your finger on the trigger for some day traders, those people are happy to wait, and then they may also put in, short positions. They could even put in stop loss positions on stocks they own. There's different strategies to defend against losses. This would be the time to start looking into that. At these high levels where there's risky information out there saying that there's more likelihood of a drop than a gain, often it's a self-fulfilling prophecy as well. We expect a drop, so therefore we in a sense can create it. But the technical indicators there are also starting to occur in this self-fulfilling prophecy where people believe it's going to happen. So already lots of trades are going on. Certain types of things are happening. Again, not getting too technical about it, to tell us on a factual level that this is expected to occur and is being planned and is being created to occur, whether by design or not. So this is a very important time for us to take some wisdom from our history. And another issue we can do is to invest in segregated funds. For example, insured mutual funds. Great time to be doing that at these high points because you can guarantee your principal going in. You've got it's like buying a 10-year bond. You're guaranteed your money in 10 years if you're doing the right kind of seg fund, by the way. And then you can then also profit from gains over the years. You can also shift money around in your portfolio and take advantage of that without losing your guarantee that you got in with. So you could go in with fixed income today, wait until the correction happens, and move into equities, move into stocks, and then move your way back up, always having your guarantee underpinning your investment, knowing that that's the minimum you're going to have when you walk out in 10 years, no matter what happens in the markets. So these kinds of ways of defending your strategies, very, very smart things to do at these levels in the markets today.
We'll have more with Richard Knowles right after this.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Goddard. I'm speaking to Richard Knowles of Knowles & Associates in Vancouver. We received word that another massive fine has been levied against the major banks in England about trying to manipulate. In fact, they did manipulate currency exchanges. Citibank, Royal Bank of Scotland, HSBC, UBS were fined $3.4 billion. Barclays is under investigation. JP Morgan is under investigation for currency exchange manipulation. But Richard, you're telling us there's another JP Morgan story we should be aware of.
Well, it's the ongoing drama of JP Morgan Chase. And also the particular drama of their CEO, Jamie Dimon. This is a more intriguing drama because in the case of the 2008 banking crisis, which was created by these toxic mortgage debts that were resold and created indeed, in fact, by the investment banking community, of which JP Morgan Chase was the lead creator of these toxic mortgage packages, they were resold by the investment bank of JP Morgan Chase in good faith. They claimed these were good AAA ranked mortgages. They sold them as a lie. They lied about what the packages they were putting together. Now, what's very important about this is who do you blame for these lies? When they sold them to goodwill banks that accepted the research and the backing of JP Morgan's promise that these were top-ranked AAA mortgages, when in fact they knowingly packaged absolute garbage. Some of these were already defaulted loans that didn't even meet a low C grade. They were already in default, and many times they were reselling them as AAA ranked mortgages without any guarantees at all behind them. The key feature to all of this congressional hearing was inviting JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon in, because they wanted to implicate someone over this fiasco, this fraud. It's actual corporate fraud, which brought down the global banking community. That's how bad this was. Now, what's intriguing about this is Jamie Dimon was able to convince the public in these congressional hearings that he had culpable deniability. He said, well, basically, I knew nothing about this. Our departments didn't know about. Nobody up at the top echelon knew what these people, these individuals, they're always pointing finger at someone else, what these individuals knew. Now, what's very intriguing about this case is a particular woman. Now, Fleischman is her name. She currently lives, Elaine Fleischman lives in Vancouver, believe it or not. So she's not a homegrown girl. She's from British Columbia. She became a securities lawyer in New York, worked for J.P. Morgan Chase as one of their top securities lawyer people. She was very high echelon. She was privileged to see Dimon's quotes. She was one handshake away at any given time from Jamie Dimon, is our understanding. Now, she's a central witness, by the way, in one of the biggest cases of white-collar crime in American history. So she possesses secrets that J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon, that just last year paid $9 billion to keep the public from hearing. Now, so this settlement case, by the way, there's a whole other issue around this settlement case. But one of the reasons that Dimon himself is not currently in jail as the CEO of this company is because he could claim, and it was never proven yet, that he had culpable deniability and therefore was not involved in the knowledge of that these were toxic. Now, what's really gets very intriguing in this case, and for anyone that wants to look this up on the internet, you'll find some very intriguing stuff on her, particularly an article, believe it or not, written by someone in Rolling Stone, which is brilliantly written, by the way, and very, very factually investigated. I thought that was very, very brave of her to come out. She's been under a very tight-lipped agreement, which she has broken because she could not live with herself knowing these things and seeing what they're getting away with. So to give her credit, if she's listening today, I've got your back if I can ever help you out. In any case, at this point, she's taken it on the chin because, of course, anyone that's that calls someone out in their work has a very difficult time as a whistleblower to get other jobs. And, she stated this is her biggest problem at the moment, although she's extremely skilled and extremely knowledgeable. In any case, long story short, she has seen quotes from Jamie Dimon that about a year, between 6 months and a year before everything blew up, he was quoted as saying, "We've got to get rid of these crap mortgages because they're going to blow up in our face." So, and there's other quotes that he is known to have said, and knowledge of their department, which they were being ordered to do and repackage. She was actually privy, direct witness, to watch them repackage these mortgages. She had no control over it, but that's when she blew the whistle. But it was already too late because everything had blown up. It was overlapping the blow up anyway. So regardless to all of those issues, the point is Jamie Dimon was in the know, knew exactly what was being packaged and being sold off, and was complicit to the whole process. He himself was the one to say, get this stuff off our books. The fact that he was knowledgeable about the quality or lack thereof of these mortgages means he was complicit in the whole process to some degree. Maybe he learned about it later on after all these toxic mortgages had been packaged in such a way. But they were repackaging these mortgages in such a way to get it off J.P. Morgan's books because they foresaw everything blowing up. They did not want to be the ones holding the explosive. They intentionally lied, repackaged them into if you will, into quality boxes, saying they were quality goods, dumped them on somebody else, and when everything blew up, their hands were clean. In addition, they were able to make profits by betting against the very people that they were selling these toxic mortgages to, because they knew that the stocks, they could short these bank stocks as well as making a profit on their losses, because they knew they were going to lose because they had set up the loss. So this is the kind of situation we're facing today. My big concern isn't whether Jamie Dimon is going to be implicated. He deserves to go to jail. There's no question. You can send Martha Stewart for some insider trading to jail. This guy deserves to go to jail for a good 5 to 10 years, plus pay a lot of this money back. from his personal savings. He got, the irony was that he got an increase in his salary to $20 million. A 70% increase of his salary went to $20 million last year. Or post, I think it was just post that. Yeah, so it was last year, I believe. To respond to his great success at saving J.P. Morgan from legal liability and only having to pay out about $9 billion in fines. This guy deserves to go to jail, as do many people within the structure of J.P. Morgan Chase, as well as other investment banks that helped to create this situation that took billions of dollars away and savings away from individuals that certainly can never afford to recover them. Someone should pay. And this is the big problem of our issue today. And that's that people don't have trust in the system where there is a complicit, if you will, a complicit function between even the Justice Department. It was discovered by Fleischman in the investigations herself. When the Justice Department of the United States, which she expected a call any time, when they did finally call, and she said, well, look, they asked about certain types of cases they were investigating. And she said, look, these cases are very interesting, but I've got the case that you need to know about that implicates Jamie Dimon directly. This is the big case. I've got more proof in this one case than you'll find in 10 of these other cases that you're looking at. They said, well, look, we're not interested in that. So what was very intriguing, while we can't necessarily say there's a conspiracy directly, you've got to connect some certain dots here. And there seems to be a clear indication that the Justice Department is complicit with the Dimon Group, Jamie Dimon's team, and the J.P. Morgan Chase fiasco to try and downplay any truly serious implications that might directly hold any of the top-ranking individuals accountable. Instead, they're trying to look at placating the public, the general public, by saying, look, they admitted some form of guilt, although immediately after paying the $9 billion in guilt money, which they had been implicated and fined for, they stated immediately right after that in a very audacious statement to the public press that you see J.P. Morgan Chase is not guilty and Jamie Dimon is not guilty. Right? It has nothing to do with guilt. They made a backroom deal. It was a settlement out of court, but it just never made it to court. One of the key features to going to court was they would have faced one of the most daunting judges that has been holding these people accountable. They did not want to meet this fellow in a court because Jamie Dimon would be in prison. And they knew that, so they made a deal of any financial amount to try and keep everybody out of the press. And therefore everything's okay, and it wasn't as bad as you thought, and therefore, really wasn't their fault, and they've learned their lesson. They'll never happen again. Well, I'm afraid the ethical moral basis of these so-called banking leaders have never been put to rest. They're completely and within regards in question. No one should trust these people. There's absolutely no reason to believe you should. They knew before they were toxic that they were trying to unload them on other people. They'll do that to you. They'll do that to probably their own mothers. And I don't want to say anything that's not true, but I want to connect the dots and make conclusions from constantly reoccurring facts. I'm not saying anything libelous. I'm saying something factual. They have done this. We have proof and evidence and witnesses to say, and yet, although it's never hit court, we know the witnesses exist. We know the stories exist. It's a matter of you to make your own judgment. Is this a market? Is this a U.S. market, a U.S. government, a U.S. system that you can invest in without some concern? Now, if the winners end up being your stocks and you invest in J.P. Morgan, well, perhaps that is the good thing to do. That may be one way to get around this. Invest with the winners. Get on the winning team. As long as you understand the system, you can play within it. If you don't understand the system, you shouldn't be in it. So that's the real message here. There is an element of distrust, of course, in the political and indeed banking system in the United States. I just say, watch your back. When you invest wisely, get a good advisor, make sure you know the facts, and get an advisor that understands the system properly and knows these issues and can make decisions revolving around those things for you, and securitize your money carefully.
Richard, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Thank you for your time, Jim.
My guest has been Richard Knowles of Knowles & Associates in Vancouver. If you have any questions for Richard, you can send them to Richard K., that's the letter K, at customplanfinancial.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Find us on Twitter at Talk Digital Net. We're also available on YouTube channel Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.